Hello family, welcome to How Love Works, where we talk about the principles for lasting love. Well, it's been a while, but I'm glad I've had an opportunity to speak to you about a topic today that came to me from a young lady, actually a young mother. She wanted to talk to me about a series of questions, and I thought that it would be best that I handle these questions on the channel. So one of the questions that she brought to my attention was the issue, and I think we dealt with it before, but I think I want to go into a little detail, not a whole lot, but just a little for her. Her name, by the way, is Miss Harris. This one is for you. Uh, she wanted to know uh, what are the pros and cons. Basically, this is the takeaway. What are the pros and cons of having a relationship with a man who was raised by a masculine oriented woman? Primarily, in my view, just raised by a single mother, because technically a single mother, she almost has no real choice. She's going to be masculine driven because she's doing everything. So I'm going to talk about a few things as quickly as I can, so that the women who are listening to me will have some understanding of what they need to be looking for, and really give it a whole lot of thought. Now, in the black community, I have to be pretty transparent, and I want to make sure that you understand that it's not often that a black woman or any woman that's listening to me right now will run into a black man who isn't from a single parent home. Considering that 74% of all babies coming into the black community at the present time are coming into single family homes. So it's a very sad statistic, but it's a reality. Now, that also doesn't mean these men don't have a relationship with their father. So that's why you have to take everything I'm saying. You have to look at your particular issue. Okay, here's number one. One of the things that I see that's a real issue with getting into a relationship with a man, especially if it's going to become a committed relationship of any kind, is that often men who are raised primarily by women, it's a given that they're going to be acutely emotional. They don't make great decisions, and one of the primary purposes of a man in a relationship is to be a good decision maker. And when a man is driven by emotions and he's living in his head often, it's very difficult for him to make decisions. The result is when he does make decisions, they typically turn out badly because he doesn't have the he doesn't seem to have trained himself or learned to train himself to be able to discern cause and effect, look at the big picture, the priorities, pros and cons, the takeaways. He doesn't look at the details, doesn't know how to outsource information to get more information to make a more common sense decision that's going to be beneficial for everyone. So that's one of the big things, is that they can be overly emotional, but that's a given. Most of us know that. Number two, they typically, because of the fact that they're overly emotional, they don't typically build very well. In other words, they're not very good planners. To be able to plan, again, you have to be able to have a certain level of discernment, You have to be able to, as a man, you have to have a little bit of structure in your life, because the structure is typically the framework to make the plans that is needed in order to execute those plans. And so if you are living or dealing with a man who comes out of a single family home with a masculine mother, often that young man has been catered to, or he has been treated so badly that he may even resent his single mother. And so in either case, he never learns how to build, because that's never an issue. Learning how to build, learning how to plan, the benefits, and why it's necessary to plan one's life. It never really becomes it never becomes a priority. So the result is the man is drifting. So number three, most of these young men, they're not very responsible for their actions, their attitudes, and affections. Most of you will find that most of these guys have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 babies. That's a real big, glaring, neon sign, red flag for any woman. I'm not saying one baby is an issue, or even two if it's a twin or something like that, but when you start getting into multiple children, multiple baby mamas, if you will, it's a pretty big indicator that that person is not very responsible. And obviously you don't want to deal with a man, or a woman for that matter, but since we're talking about men who are raised by single mothers, their lack of irresponsibility, or their lack of responsibility, is legendary. So that's something right there, number three. Number four, these guys, because of the latter three I just mentioned, they live from crisis to crisis. Because there's no direction in their lives, they don't know how to achieve any real goals of substance. They really have no focus in their lives. They don't have any structure in their lives. They behave their way into a pattern of failure, failure after failure after failure. And they're addicted in a sense to failure. What you often find with these young men is that their lives are always in flux. Their lives are always in chaos. So that's number four. Number five is these young men are typically motivated by pleasure, in the sense they're addicted to it. Their self-esteem, the way they validate themselves, is through whether it be control, or whether it be through sexual intercourse, whether it be through the number of children that they procreate. It can be a number of things that cause all kinds of calamity for that young man. But these are some of the problems that you will find with many men who are raised by single mothers. Their worldview is skewed in terms of how they see the world. They objectify people and they love things. That's kind of the way they operate. They objectify or use people, but they love things. So they're motivated by pleasure. Now, some of the basic behaviors that you see with the way their minds work, and what comes off their what comes out of their mouth. One of the characteristics that you'll find with these guys, and I'm gonna fly through these real quick because I don't want to talk a long time, because it's kind of obvious. Most of this information, I think most women already know. They've experienced these guys time and time again. They're never committed to anything except just immediate gratification. They're not committed to lifelong partnership. That's a reality. They will promise it, but they'll never deliver. because there is no history of it. Okay, number one, and then I'm going to shut it down. They typically lie a lot. They exaggerate. They don't tell the truth. That's just a pattern. You can see it. Number two, they are status driven. Very status driven. Whether they're having the cars or clothes or flashing a lot of money. They're very status driven. Number three, they're really control oriented. They don't feel like they have a lot of security in their lives. They might have come out being raised by single mothers. Often their lifestyle is very insecure, and so they need, something like money or status, or they use physical aggression to give a false image of security. Another one, they often are very sensitive, too sensitive. These guys, some of them will cry at the drop of the hat. Some of them will become very aggressive and physical at the drop of the hat. Some of them will shut down at the drop of the hat. These are the just basic things that you see from these guys. And I think lastly, often, I think this is number 5, often you'll find that they're manipulators. Especially, I know a lot of women will get into conversations with these guys. They may catch him in a lie, and a woman might, actually call him out on it, and then he'll turn around and deny, or he'll suggest in his denial that she did not hear, or she got it all wrong. So he's twisting reality on her, and that causes people to second guess, is this something that's really real, what I'm hearing? So, these are the kinds of behaviors that you see from a lot of different men who are raised by single mothers who have an issue. I think the last one I should have mentioned was they also have an issue with authority. I think that's self-evident. Now, that's not true of all of them. I came from a single mother, but I came out of a different generation. So things were a little different for me, and the values that I have now today, we were still living by those old school values. And so a lot of the young men who were raised with a single mother, I had still a relationship with my father, spent a lot of time with him, went into the military. A lot of my mentors were men, so I had an opportunity to learn from men, be trained by men, and I enjoy all the benefits of learning from men in order to be able to benefit my own family and teaching and training my own son. So these are some of the issues that a woman might encounter when she deals with a man who was raised by a masculine single woman. That's my time. I thank you for yours. I catch you on the other side. God bless you.